And it's Wednesday night, which that means it's time for Quick Fix Golf, and all our golfing buddies that are going to have a good time and listen to some of the best guests in golf. It'll give you all kinds of advice that's going to help your game. And tonight we have a big one with Brendon deVore, Be Better Golf. You've seen him on YouTube. He's the king of the YouTube golf scene.
The king.
He's the king. He's the king. Absolutely king. We forgot one thing. We forgot to put the slides up.
That's all right. We're having too much fun.
We had a great
pre with Brendon here. So
there's Brendon. There's Brendon right there. Look at rated top 10 channels on YouTube. 24.3 million views. 862
million
views. He's the man. He's the man. What are we going to learn tonight? How many teaching pros has Brendon experienced?
Well,
is there one key swing fault that most teaching pros teach? Why'd you do that one, Darren?
Is there one drill that most teaching pros teach? What is the average golfer looking for in a teaching pro?
We're going to ask those questions, and here we are.
I'm Darren DeMailey.
And I'm Bobby Lopez. And we're the PGA pros at Tupelo Bay.
All right.
We pulled off.
We're in the same zip code.
And remember, here's our YouTube. If you want to subscribe, there's a little red button down at the bottom. Somebody's got the microphone on.
You want to ring the bell.
And you want to ring the bell.
We want to get as many subscribers as Brendon has.
Yeah, fat chance of that happening. And tell them, Darren, what we want to do.
All right, here's what we need you to do. You can go to our website and download a video of your golf swing. And we're going to give you a free analysis, not a penny out of your pocket. It's the best golf analysis that money can't buy. You know why? Because it's free. And we'll send you some drills, send you some information on what you need to be doing. You don't need to be going in those big video vaults where you just kind of randomly guess. So send it to quickservice@quickfixgolf.com, and we will send you that free analysis.
Be Better Golf. Brendon deVore. Brendon, we'd like to do a special thank you to you because of what you've done for us and what you've done for golf, period. I know you've had some times when you get some criticism.
Yep.
And it's unfounded.
Yeah, it's tough.
Because you've done what you've done and what you've taken on has helped countless number of different golf pros that have gotten exposure they would have never gotten. So welcome tonight, and we send a big thank you from us.
Oh, thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, I first met Bobby when I was just starting the channel. I had been doing it for like 4 months or so. And I was looking for, I think I had seen Bobby had put up some advice for Gene Stowers that was on some video or something. And there was some kind of drill where you're like, leaving the back to the target and accelerating the hands. And I was really on that kick of that at the moment. And I saw that he lives real close to my brother in Virginia. So when I was back visiting them, I came and saw Bobby, and we had like a really fun time together. And we had some videos that were real hits, and people really liked them. So yeah, ever since then, like I always try to keep coming back to Bobby when I'm back on the East Coast to do more videos with him, and hopefully we can once this annoying situation is over and travel gets easier.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. We got some questions for you. Darren's going to go first.
This is probably an easy one for you, a no-brainer. But of all the golf pros that you've visited and been around, who's the funniest?
Okay, Bobby's the funniest of them all. I laugh the most in Bobby's lessons. Yeah. So if you're looking for a comedy routine.
Darren also asks,
how many pros have you visited over what period of time? I asked you earlier about, how you're spending your time, what percentage of your time you're devoting to the YouTube channel and interviewing pros and your, as you call it, the real-time job. How many? Can you quantify it?
It'd be about, well, I started doing it in late 2015 or maybe early 2016. And I think I've interviewed probably like 30 or 40 different pros on the channel. And then constant conversations with other pros that email me. Because the one thing that you find out when you take a lot of lessons on a YouTube channel, especially that if it's getting watched, is every pro in America guarantees that they can fix my swing in 10 minutes. So, so like I get lots of emails like, here's the one thing you're doing wrong, you know, but, and in the course of the channel, you know, I would say that those guys are probably right. Like almost every lesson that I film, like I get a lot better by the end of it. But I'm not looking anymore to be fixed in 10 minutes. I'm looking for a fix that's gonna, you know, that's really gonna stick and become a part of my game. Because I think I could, at this point, like I can go to almost any driving range and say like, hey, who's the worst pro here? To, you know, whoever, you know, is there. And they say, oh, you know, they could point them out, and that guy could get me hitting the ball really good. I guarantee it. Like in like 30 minutes, doing any kind of drill. So it's not, so I'm kind of realizing that recently, it's not really the technique so much for getting you to like hit the ball a certain way, but the relationship that you have with somebody to really make it stick and get it to become like organically part of your game without even thinking about it. That seems to be like the real trick of getting good at golf.
That's amazing, because that's what he's saying is true. That you've got to find your one key and be able to permanently sear it into your being.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and it's keep trying 15 different things. That's not a good
People
idea.
are never going to get better that way.
Now, here's my question. So what is a sit-down drill? I thought you stood up while playing golf.
A question for me?
Yeah, it's for you. No.
Yeah. Yeah, this is basically something. There's a picture of Jim Flick, I think.
Yep.
And this is something that Tony Lutzak did for me, something that Mike Bender did for me, to show me a lot of times pros, the huge debate in Be Better Golf early on, really for the first like 2.5 years, was where does power come from? Does it come from the upper body or does it come from the lower body? So coaches like Mike Bender and like Jim Flick and like Mike Malaska, they'll tell you that the power predominantly comes from the upper body, and the lower body is the number one function of the lower body is to provide stability. So one of the ways they'll prove that is they'll take their driver and they'll hit it normal, and let's say it's like 105 miles an hour, normal stance, normal everything. And then they'll sit down on a chair and they'll take the same swing, and then with the swing speed monitor, instead of 105 miles an hour, it'll be like 88 or 93. This is something that I did in Florida at Mike Bender's school on a video, and we had a little swing monitor. And I'm upper body dominant anyway, just because like you said, Bobby, I was like a pool hitter in baseball and stuff, and that's a good feeling for me. Like I like that feels powerful to me. So there was maybe like a 10% difference in sitting down in the chair between that and just standing up, you know. So from like 114 to sitting down, I was like 105 or 102, something like that. So so basically when you do that drill, those coaches who really like that upper body dominated motion use that as a way to prove to you that, you know, because the thing you always hear is that the power comes from the legs, the power comes from the hips. You get all your power from the ground up, and like you know, lots of quotes. And so then
the legs feed the wolf, right? In Miracle, remember that?
Yeah, right. So they use this and they say, see, like, okay, well, you're getting 10% more power from your legs, but it's not really the engine of the swing. I'm not 100% on board with that so much anymore, but I understand it as, I think really where I've come down to with this is, I think that players like Rory McIlroy and great players, Adam Scott, all these players that we get tips from on the Golf Channel and stuff, and when you know, Steve Sands or somebody goes up to them and says, hey, what's the key that you're going to be working on tomorrow to, you know, take this win home? They're going to say, oh, the hips, the lower body, like, you know, that stuff. I think when they were kids, they really developed a wonderful arm swing, and that's why you've heard their name. But if they want to get that little extra out of their game, if Rory McIlroy wants to start hitting it 122 mile an hour club head speed rather than 121, his arm swing is so expertly developed that there's really not much more he's getting out of that. But for somebody that might be watching Be Better Golf, and a lot of times their arm swing has never really gotten to that black belt level where it's so good that they can start thinking about the legs. So I don't know. I could see it helping and hurting, but for the most part, the sit down drill and the chair drill, I don't really see it helping that many people, but it's really used by a lot of pros to kind of prove a point, I think.
Right. And I had a chance, firsthand to watch Jack Nicklaus teach his grandchildren and Jack talk about how he learned to play the game. In his first 2 years of learning the game, he was not allowed to use his legs. Right. He was not allowed. His ankles had to be quiet. His heels had to stay on the ground. And Grout made him learn to use his arms and hands and hit the ball way left to start. So I completely agree with you with that. You got to learn to use your arms and hands first. As Flick would always say, and I spent a lot of time around him, learn to hook the ball with your arms and hands and then take the hook out with your legs.
Yeah, but I remember I called into this show once, like 2 years ago, when I was big on this thing about the arms and hands. And we were talking, it was a power show. We were talking about power. And I asked you, Darren, how much power really are the legs contributing? Is it really even like worth the sweat to try to get anything out of the legs? And you had an interesting thing to say, because I know that you believe that the legs are super important if you really want to hit it far. Is that right?
Yeah. So, I work with a lot of paraplegics. I own 2 paragolfers, and a paragolfer is a golf cart that doesn't allow you to use your legs at all. So, I have a lot of experience watching players use their legs and players who don't use their legs at all. And it's I'd be interested to see if we can get some modern technology that would measure some sort of caloric intake of, how much energy the arms and hands are using and the legs are using in a golf swing. I mean, maybe that would be the way to quantify it. But
yeah, the time I spent with Tony Lutzak, who is now Dr. Tony Lutzak, when I met him, he was a PGA pro that had basically quit teaching golf lessons to go back to school to get his doctorate in human factors engineering, so which he just completed last year. So Tony has a million different graphs and things where they're doing the actual muscle activation of how much work each muscle group is doing.
Right. And
he'll tell you that by and large it's this unit here between the trail pec and the trail tricep, bicep, and shoulder, like this whole trail unit moving, that is mostly doing it. But then, I've met other pros that have, that's the thing you realize, through this whole situation we've lived through in 2020 going into 2021. And then anybody who lived through that and has also been deeply involved in golf instruction, that science is a thing that can be used to prove any point, any direction. So it's really your commitment to what you're trying to work on has to be stronger than if it's so weak that somebody with a study is going to knock it over, then it didn't really matter to you anyway. Because I met lots of golfers that are really good, way better than me, that believe things that are objectively totally untrue. Right. But somehow they help them be really good at golf. So it's really, the science is not really the key, but it would be nice to know objectively what actually is going on between upper and lower.
I always refer to Nicklaus with this interview. We have it on our website, a Golf Digest interview. They were with one of these, "This is your life, Jack Nicklaus" kind of thing. And the interviewer said, well, how much do you attribute your success to your leg drive and your strong legs? Because Nicklaus had really huge legs. Huge. And he said, it's funny, I hear that all the time, but I never felt like I was using my legs. He says, my legs just gave me a better foundation to be able to swing my arms harder from.
That's the best feeling. Yeah.
He said my key was to get the golf club to the ball before the buttons in my shirt got there.
Right. And that's the best feeling for me in golf, when I feel like I can go up there any lower body thoughts, like if I'm trying to actually like play in a tournament or play really well and I have like lower body thoughts in my mind, like it's the chain is so complicated between your lower body and the golf ball. Like I never hit it well with a lower body thought.
Well, sure. For
I
all
always
the
hit it.
golfers listening in, your lower body goes first, doesn't it? In more ways than one.
Yeah.
I knew where that was going.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got next here? Oh, it's my question.
Go ahead.
As a consensus, all the pros you visited, what is there one key factor for our listeners to focus on?
Well, of the thing that made the most impact to me of the 30 or 40 different pros that I talked to on the channel, the thing that made the most impact on me, like almost like a life-changing impact for me, was when I flew, or I had Bertie Cordell fly out here from England. Bertie does the bent backwards club, the DST club,
Yep.
It's like a lot of pros use it. John Rahm uses it, Henrik Stenson, like he's got some stat of like 22 of the top 25 or something. Anyway, so he's absolutely obsessed with impact and the dynamics of impact and how impact should be. So while he was out here, I was so jazzed on what he was saying about impact that the only golf certification I've ever got was I became an deep impact certified instructor. So like I went through like his class like to do that, and I haven't really used it, but in going through that, it was really interesting for me. And for me, when he can show you in face on, as far as like there's many different ways of accomplishing this, but what you gotta eventually get to is the hands have to be towing the golf club through impact. If the golf club is past an extension of the left forearm, or if the golf club is kind of past the hands, I mean, there's just no good golf from there, I don't think. I mean, there'll be like short game to do, there'll be putting to do, but you will never control your golf ball from this like flipped position.
So you're saying shaft lean is where it's at,
but not necessarily shaft lean, because the shaft can be straight up and down, and it can still be towed through impact. For example, like if you're hitting like a driver, and you look at like Cameron Champ's driver. Cameron Champ's driver is basically straight up and down, but that extension of his left forearm is pointed like way past the golf club, which shows that it's physically being towed around the corner. Because at first I was obsessed, like, because I used to, when I first started, I didn't start playing golf till I was like 24. But when I first started playing golf, the guys that I was learning from were golfing machine guys. And they were all about lag and shaft lean, like obsessively. So I just didn't care about anything else. I just wanted shaft lean and I wanted lag. So I would put the ball way back in my stance and I would hold the hell out of the lag as hard as I could. But that actually then would make me flip it more, and, unconsciously trying to get it like at least a little bit airborne. And then I'd be like broken and it'd be behind me, but the shaft would actually be leaning a little bit. So even though my hands in a face on was kind of like level with my back hip and my wrist was broken, the shaft would still be leaning a little bit. And I think like, hey, I have shaft lean. Why is the ball, like spraying everywhere? So it's not really so much shaft lean, I don't think. It's the club actually physically being towed around that corner. And
we had John Sinclair on, I don't know, maybe 6-8 months ago, something like that. I don't know if you know John, but to me, I called him the Tiger Woods of wrist position.
Yep.
And he measured over 120 tour professionals, and he's, the measurements explain exactly what you just said there, Brendon, that, from the top of the backswing to impact, there's a closure rate of the club face and not necessarily a leaning of the shaft as well. So
right.
It was
Right.
great to have him on that night and kind of measure and quantify some of that stuff. So, and Bobby and I talk about this all the time. We completely agree with that. And it was some of the things that, Nicklaus always talked about, let the golf club release. And for him, the golf club releasing was the unhinging not just the rotation of the face, it was the unhinging as well. So everybody talks about lag, and if you're unhinging, you're not keeping lag. So I think there's it's a good discussion, but the measurements nowadays prove, you know, that Nicklaus was right from day one. So you got to get that closure rate of the face to happen.
Right now,
And just out of it, one more comment. You know who closes it the most? Any idea, Brendon, who closes it the most of the modern day player?
Okay.
I'm going to take a guess. I don't know for sure. I'm going to say Kama Morikawa.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
He's on the open side at the top, and in the transition, that club face closes a ton.
Well, like this picture that we have on here right now, you see that picture? You see that guy at the top of the backswing?
Yeah.
Whoever's coaching him, I don't know who he is. I'm not going to say his name. He's worried about his head. As far as I'm concerned, that's an open position. He should bulge that left wrist a little bit, because otherwise he's going to have to really hustle on the downswing to square that club face up. They didn't, you can't do it like Webb Simpson does it. It isn't that you can't do it. It's just you're going to have to do it.
It's the modern swing, you know. Yeah. It is. All right, what else?
Are you guys incorporating more of a bowed wrist at the top for people?
I'd rather say, look, when we're dealing with golfers, and especially most of the people we see that come out for lessons are going to shoot from, what do you like, from 85 to 1,000?
Roundabout.
A long round.
Right? And the thing is, I'd rather see them a little bit shut than I would to see them a little bit open.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is this, you know, and I think sometimes we lose sight of this. We're always looking for this perfection and perfection and perfection. And you got the average golfer, not even average golfer, below average golfer. We want people taking up the game and playing the game, and they're shooting 120 or 115. You know, what can you do for them that's easy for them to do, and they actually see some results out of it to where they enjoy the game more, and they say, wow, now I can break 100. I'm having a good time. I mean, if that doesn't work, golf dies. You know,
I mean, that's the number one thing when people talk about grow the game, and you know, there's all these, you know, the PGA Tour is like the largest charitable organization connected to sports in the world, and they raise a lot of money, and they do like a lot of good things, and like I know the USGA got like some TV contracts, and there's all these different golf organizations. I'm not trying to like count anybody else's money, but I would love to see some of the effort put towards like a real unbiased, like totally just altruistic look at like what can we do to make golfers control where the golf ball goes a little bit more. And really, and because like I only feel like as many times as I've played golf, like I only feel like I really played golf like maybe 4 or 5 times in my life where I was playing golf, like the game of golf. As far as like golf, then it wasn't feeling like hit and hope or like you're like kind of just spraying, but like it really felt like golf felt like the same way playing pool feels, or the same way, you know, chess feels, or something like that, where I was not really like playing the positions and the hoping to do the right thing and then like hitting to like a range, but I was really like hitting the spots, and because I was hitting to those spots, I could attack it from a better spot. Like, and it makes you, just from those few times, it makes me realize like how much fun these tour players are having playing in these tournaments, you know, because when you're really playing the game of golf, like a regular golfer, like shooting in the 90s, like as fun as that is and stuff, like it's an unbelievable, like it's hard to understand how much fun it would be if you were really playing good golf, and which I've touched just a few times, you know, where I've shot in the 60s or something like that, and I'm really like controlled my ball, but it's just like and that's the real, you know, poison that gets into your system that hooks you into like trying to get better at golf, because even if you're not like winning money playing the game or whatever, but you're able to play golf in that kind of reactive, you know, fun way. It's just so like enticing, you know.
Yeah, people are out there every day playing fix my swing from the last swing they made. It's so true. And I don't know if you've one of the people you should get in contact with Brendon, if you haven't, is Fred Shoemaker. I don't know if you've read his book about extraordinary golf and what you just described there as kind of what he says extraordinary golf is, where you don't have any thoughts and you're playing the game, as opposed to fixing my swing, which most people do.
Yeah, what about playing
that's
lights
always
out, like they say?
Yeah, there you go.
right.
Yep.
I remember
Well, that's always been my problem with, like, if you go to like Barnes and Noble or whatever, if one's still open around you, and you go to the golf book section, it's usually like, half of like one of those things of books, stacks of books. It's like the whole thing. And of all the golf books that are there, there'll be like probably 50% or 60% are on the mental game of golf, And that's always been my problem with the mental game of golf, because I'm like, well, what's the point? What's the point in having a mental game of golf if you're really totally like pretty unsure about where the ball is going to go? It ends up just being like wasted calories for me to like try to think about, this plan of how I'm going to do it. I guess you can manage your misses a little bit better, but it's just, I don't know. It's the mental game of golf I've never really gotten. Like, I think it's really like, the ball is reacting to what you're physically doing to it. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I can tell you from my experience, if this helps anybody. I remember I was 14. I was 14 at the time, and Vince Allen, the old pro that taught me how to play, knew I had this horrible Cuban temper.
You're right.
It was terrible. It was terrible when I was a kid. And he told me, he said, we're going to play golf today with the mayor and the city manager. Mel Reese was the city manager. Dick Clark was Steve Clark was the county manager. And who else was? Somebody else was. No, it was him, the pro, and myself. So that was the four of us. He said, if you lose your temper tonight, you little Cuban, I'm going to kill you.
Right.
So we went out and played on it. The very first hole, I three-jacked it. The very first, from 20 feet. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I knew, I better not get mad. So I said, no big deal. Second hole's par 5, I'll make a birdie. I didn't make birdie, I made par. Went to the third hole, made par. And then I went to the fourth tee, and I went to sleep. I just said, this round is ruined. It's gone. It's no big deal. I was only, one over. Next thing you know, I get to the 6th hole, bang, I knock on a birdie. Go to the 9th hole, boom, I knock on a snake from halfway across the green. Now I'm 1 under. Then I went to the back 9 and I birdied 11, 13, and 15. And we get to the 16th tee, and the mayor, Steve Clark, looks at me and he goes, Bobby, did you realize you're 4 under? And Vince Allen goes, no, don't tell him. Don't let him know. Right. Go back to sleep.
Right, go back to sleep.
Go back. And I went like, huh? I'm 4 under. And I looked at the right side of the fairway because there was water on the left, and I always would hit for that right side of that fairway, and I just smoked it right down the right side and went par, and shot 60, 68. And it was the first time I ever broke 70. And it was
great.
You go into lights out. You go and I didn't.
It's a beautiful feeling. It really is.
It's it doesn't happen often, but it can happen. It doesn't have to happen to shoot 68. It can happen to shoot 78 or 88. Right. When you finally relax.
Or 98, you break 100
right
for the first time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's try the next question we have here. Darren asks,
what are some of the drills you're doing for distance? We've seen a few of them on your YouTube channel, and we're wondering about, are you Blue Cross, Blue Shield? What kind of can we pull up the video of Brendon pulling a hamstring here? Do we have the video of him pulling the hamstring? Oh, there it is. Oh!
It is. Yeah.
What are you trying to do? Hit it to the moon?
Right.
Yeah. Well, you can see that there's no ball there.
It better not be. What the heck are you doing, man? You trying to kill yourself?
All right. Well, that video came out last year after Bryson's big makeover, and I had talked to some people who were involved with the camp, like the Bryson makeover camp that they set up, and where he put on all the weight and did all the stuff, and really the big thing that a lot of these guys are doing now to put on to put more distance in to hit it further is they're using the ground differently. So I've good friends with Dr. Scott Lynn from Swing Catalyst, and he's like the #1 ground force guy for golf. And basically, they're really, really stomping the ground in a certain pattern, like they're calling it a ground force pattern, that if you have the correct amount of stiffness in your core, it'll actually translate to the golf head, to the club head. If you don't, then you'll just be doing all this stuff into the ground, and it won't even matter. But the thing that you're seeing here in this picture is, and you see where rather than have the golf ball, rather than have that swing speed monitor down at my feet, what I have there is I put it up on that tripod, and I put it up at about like where P2 would be, like the first parallel position on the way back.
I see that.
Yep. So because what Sasha McKenzie and really Dr. Robert Grover from Yale, it was the guy that's done the best work on it. It saw that the faster you can take it back away, the faster, like the swing really does work as a spring. Basically, he calls it I think a harmonic oscillator or something like that.
Yep, yep.
So basically, if you can take it back fast, like really fast, and then that will translate into your downswing. The first mistake people will make is they'll take it back fast, transition really fast, and make it back a big fast downswing. Not really. Like the feeling is like with this, in order to get that thing to register, you got to be swinging at 40 miles an hour. And to get from the start of your backswing there, from address to like there, which would be kind of like a wide P2, kind of like a Bubba Watson style P2, like that is a very short distance to go from 0 to 40 in. So for me, like I was able to get it like I think like 46 miles an hour. I was able to make, that was my fastest backswing. So and that was like that did definitely translate it into like huge club head speed on the way down, because I was like doing like 112, and then I was able to put on like 12 more just by doing that. And it was just, but the thing that was interesting about it is, if you, like I was saying, if you do a super fast backswing, quick transition, and then like a fast downswing, it doesn't work. For some reason, you got to take a super fast backswing, feel like you wait forever at the top, and then make a really fast downswing. If you try to like jerk it back fast, go down fast, it'll kind of like Nick Price it a little bit and be like a buggy whip thing. But if you take it back really super fast, and then you pause, and you kind of like there's some gathering or something that goes on in your body, and then you can rip it through. It's super dangerous though. Like doing that, like I wouldn't, yeah. Like I wouldn't recommend it. Like I'm like, not to my own horn or whatever, but like I'm physically like super like resilient to a lot of golf swing stuff. Like knock on wood, like I've never had like a serious injury, like no back stuff, no hip stuff, anything, or shoulder stuff even. But there's things that I do that you guys don't see like on the channel to have a certain kind of like maintenance in my body, you know, to be able to put up with this. The only injury I've had has been recently, because I've been doing this thing called the Crush 100 Challenge, where I try to practice like a pro for 100 days. So I've been practicing like hours and hours a day for like a couple days a week for the last like 2 months. And my left thumb just absolutely got worn out. I shortened my left thumb in my grip. Like it was a little kind of like a long left thumb, and I shortened it, and then I got it from being like that to more like that. So I went to more of like an Elkington style short left thumb. And I also shortened my backswing a little bit, and something in that is putting like a lot of load into that left thumb. So I've had to like, it's really hard for me to do, but I had to like back off the amount of balls that I'm hitting. And especially too, when you're hitting into the mats with that, and you have like this thumb thing, because it's just like an overuse nagging injury now. So that's the only thing that's happened. But for speed, like if in general, I think you got to decide like what type of player you want to be. Like I think Bobby gave me great advice when I did something about the source of power and about driver speed, is like for older golfers, like, you know, like let's say like retirement age and above, is really, you know, develop your hand speed and get some quickness in your hand speed and build up your hand strength. And you know, don't be afraid, because a lot of guys are just like, you know, kind of stiff and swinging. Like, don't be afraid to kind of whip it through for some more speed. But if you're like, I would say like, you know, like 40s and younger, I would say if you want to get more speed in your swing, I really think that you're gonna, like, this is what I was talking about in the Bryson DeChambeau video, is like everybody was talking about like all the weight they put on, and I made a pie chart and I said, like, of all the things that how Bryson got his most speed, like him putting on all that weight is like maybe like 5% of it, like all that muscle and weight. That's really to keep him from getting hurt and to support this new technique he has. Really, it's the technique and the attitude. Like, he could always swing it, like, even when he was like thin, he could swing it like 122 miles an hour, like, but he only used that swing sometimes. Now he's using that swing all the time, and he's changed some things. He's not quite so like Mo Norman-esque and other things. So really, there's no substitute when you're trying to get speed. There's no substitute in better technique. As far as like being more on plane, that would be the number one thing I would look at if you're looking for speed. If you're on a really good plane, then you can start, you know, doing things to jack it even like up even further than that. But you get on a really good plane and you'll be all right.
Plane.
Funny you mentioned.
You had to open your mouth, didn't you?
Yeah.
Plane.
I saw this review video you guys did.
I hope you don't
So let's see this world-class practice swing that I execute here.
It is. It's world class.
That's sideways. There it is. This is without the ball. You take the club back. Fully.
So while you guys are getting set up, I'll let you know. So this video was shot by, kind of interesting fun fact, this video was shot by Nick Cantlay, Patrick Cantlay's younger brother, who's become a friend of mine and is also a professional golfer. And Nick was trying to get me more in the zone of, don't think about your swing at all. Like, don't think about it. Just go up there and try to execute the shot, and like picking out parts of the range and like playing little like range games. You know, so this is actually a good one to look at, because this is just part of my pre-shot routine. I really wasn't like thinking about anything. I was really just trying to play this game, and I actually hit, and the shot that I hit was good, but I have got some kind of mental blockage here. So let's check out what you guys have for me.
It happens.
When you actually had a golf ball there, the practice swings on the left, that was perfect. Then when you actually had a golf ball there, look at the difference. You're way inside and shut.
Okay, so when you guys saw this video and you sent me a review video of this, Darren, you said there's just no good golf that's going to come from that position. Like, that's like a stop, do not pass go position. Like,
death move is, I think, is what I refer to.
Death move.
Yeah.
Why?
To kill the guy already?
So here's the reason there. You know, if you look at in the history of the game, of all the elite players, there's just been a handful of players who've gotten the golf club more behind them like this. You know, you can say Sam Snead, Raymond Floyd. I mean, the Arnold Palmer. There's been a few of them, but the way that the majority of people need to look, and Brendon, you're the majority of people. You're not the elite player that's out there practicing and playing for a living. That when that golf club gets behind you, the only choice you have in the downswing is to steepen. And to me, that's just a non-negotiable, that you cannot steepen on the downswing. There's just been a few, like I said, a handful throughout the history of the game that steepen on the way down. Even though you might be steepening from the way down and coming from the inside, it's not your best chance for success. And
shuttle through this and show me
that stance on that.
Yeah, shuttle through this and show me where this then leads into steepening.
All right, yeah, let me.
Because I know my hand plane definitely in transition goes out towards the ball, and then like I kind of like overfloat it to fight that, and that's like my number one.
So right here, you're done. You're toast. And there it is.
Okay, I see it. I see it.
You're there. And even though Brendon, you're coming from the inside, right? You're coming from the inside, but
Yeah.
the golf club has steepened, and as Sean Foley has said many times, when you steepen on the downswing, it's the jet boat and the water skier analogy that you start to lose the tension in the rope, and you lose all force. And Nicklaus has always talked about it, and to me, that's just a very difficult.
I see. This is the steepening I'm seeing that I didn't see before. So you're saying between that kind of like P3 and P5, the shaft is steeper than it was before.
Yep. Or think
why is that important for the shaft to be more shallow?
Which
like,
is pronounced.
How does the backswing affect the downswing that like matters that much?
Exactly. I completely think that's a huge deal. It's a make or break for me based on the people I've been around and swings I've saw. But you can't argue with Arnold Palmer and Sam Snead, but the people that we see and teach every day, we've got to treat them as common men, as the movie Miracle would say. We're not dealing with the extraordinaries. So to me, as we're giving information and giving advice, we've got to give ourselves our best chance to, as Bryson would say, beat the casino, right? So to me, beating the casino is never steepening, even though you are coming from the inside there.
Just help me understand just help me understand the physics of why that matters, though. Like, how's the club when it's getting steepening? How is that starting to get into a bad spot?
Yeah, you're losing a load on the shaft and the rotation of the face. When we had John Sinclair on, it made it. I've always known it to be correct, but he quantified how the what I call the mini circle, and the mini circle is the face rotating around the shaft. So there's a quantification of the rotation of the face and the load of the shaft in there, and you can get some information from, and this is way above me, but like Michael Jacobs and Brian Manzella, how they kind of talk about alpha and beta and all those different forces on there versus a shaft that's shallowing on the way down. So
you're saying that, like, if this is the backswing and the wrist is like this, and then the wrist is like he was saying, like Clear was saying, then if it shallows, the wrist bows, and then that kind of leads to then an impact to some toe through impact.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right, so it is important. Okay.
Yep.
See, that's why you look at the logo here.
Way above our listeners, by the way. The Alpha and Beta Force.
The listeners, I just say, hit the damn thing and shut up.
Right.
Mike Durkin has a good question here. He says, taking so much advice from so many different pros would normally result in confusion. How are you able to keep much different instruction from destroying your golf game?
Well, really, like, I've gotten to the point where when I'm listening to like a pro talk, and I've, not all of it has been like home runs for me. Like, so some of it has been advice that like is not like jived with what I want to do. So like you kind of like find yourself like listening and taking the stuff that you like, and then the stuff that you like is not really like, hooking up with like what you want to do. It's like water off like a duck's back. Like, I just kind of let that go. I've like heard that before or whatever else. So it does definitely get to a point sometimes where I'm like standing over the ball or about to hit the ball, and I'm like, what am I working on again? And I don't think that's that much different from any other golfer that, with these swing thoughts. So I don't think it's really that much different. The thing that does hold me back a little bit is more the production and stuff like that. Like having to, like do like all the filming, and like now, like I have like a mental block where like if I have because I'm so about, towing the club through impact. Like if I know that I'm being filmed from face on, like I just can't even get through the ball so much, you know what I mean? Because I know that like, okay, I'm going to be reviewing this in a second. It's like, like down the line, like doesn't really bother me at all. But like if I know that like I'm being, you know, I'll start to kind of freeze a little bit more, and that's not really how you get like what you want. So yeah, I'm not totally immune to having too many tips, but I try to just be like, you know, understand, like I have a pretty good idea of what my swing faults are and what'll help me get better and what won't. So like I just kind of like, you know, take some of it with a grain of salt, and others like I really like this stuff that you and Darren are saying. Like I've known for a long time that my practice swing just looks great. And also the other thing that looks great is if I take a piece of paper and I ball it up golf ball size and I drop it on the mat and I hit that, or I hit a pine cone or hit something other than a golf ball, I mean, you will see like you will see a great looking plane, a great looking golf swing. So it's some kind of mental thing that I'm doing over when I know the ball is, I'm going to hit the ball and it's going to be airborne, that I'm trying to get past.
A study on that, Brendon, where you weren't sure when the ball was going to arrive. You did that on one of your videos, didn't you?
Yeah, something that I did was I took a Dixie cup and I had somebody sitting next to me, and sorry, I'm getting an echo. There, that's better. And the Dixie cup had a hole cut out of the back end of it and out of the front end of it. So really, it just obscured the ball from. I couldn't tell if there was no ball under that Dixie cup or if there was a ball under the Dixie cup. So I would turn around and the person would just place the cup there, or they would place the ball and cup there. And I'd take some swings, and then I'd get feeling, you know, just air swings. Like, and then sometimes I'd think I was going to take an air swing, and there would actually be a ball under there, and I'd hit it. And the feeling of the shot and the flight of the shot was just like amazing. And but as soon as your brain knows that actually the ball is, and sometimes I would think like, oh, I can see the shadow of the ball, I think there is a ball under there, and I'd make a swing and there wouldn't be a ball under there, but I could feel a difference because my brain thought there was a ball there. And that's the thing that I realized in doing the channel, is that your brain is so specific when it comes to tasks. Like, that's why like I'm not like that big of a fan of like certain training aids or things that are like away from the golf ball, because like your brain will say like, this is what you do to hit a golf ball, and this is what you do for a practice swing, or this is what you do for a drill, you know. And then when you go to actually hit the golf ball, all that drill stuff you did, all that practice swing stuff you did, it's like not really worth almost anything, because you have your golf ball hitting program that it just goes right back to. So blending those two things is really the secret sauce of getting better.
Awesome.
Because I can tell almost, like I can make almost anybody have like a beautiful golf swing if I put an impact bag, not where the golf ball goes, but I put it a foot out past the golf ball, and I say, take a backswing, scuff the ground, and then hit that impact bag that you know is a foot out past. And I've done this with like a bunch of different people because I was big on this for a while. And everybody's got this great plane. They got this great what would be shaft lean at where the ball would be. And that anticipation of hitting that heavy impact bag coming up in another foot, everything looks so great. But your brain is so specific. As great as that is, you take the bag away, you take the constraints away, it doesn't matter. Like you just do your golf ball thing again. So it's very frustrating, but it's probably part of the program that keeps us alive, but overriding it is very tough.
Well, Brendon, you're the best, buddy.
Awesome.
Let me tell you something. This was a great. You mind sticking around and answer a couple questions from the peanut gallery?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, so we're gonna close. First, before we do that, where can people? We want to send them to your channel.
Yeah, please go to Be Better Golf. Just type in Be Better Golf on YouTube and click the subscribe button, just like everybody tells you to. It really helps the channel when somebody does subscribe, because that's the main thing that people look at when they decide whether or not they want to come on the channel.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
you're
got great information. I mean, I love watching it. I go there all the time. So yeah, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell there. There's no doubt you're going to find some great information, and it's going to be a lot of and you're going to enjoy it. It's not just information, but you're going to have fun.
And I tell
Yeah, I
you
think
what,
so.
a lot of golf pros owe you a lot, pal.
Yes, yes,
We're one of them.
yes.
We're one of them.
Exactly.
And don't.
Well, we're gonna do. I want to come down when both of you guys are in Myrtle Beach. I definitely want to make a trip down there. We're gonna do some fun stuff, I think.
Coming out, you stay with us.
Cool.
You stay with you. You stay with you. You stay with
Yeah.
you.
All right, we're gonna cut the recording here.